The government's considering a new advertising campaign to control immigration from Bulgaria and Romania.
Existing border controls come to an end next year and ministers fear an influx of migrants from Eastern Europe. Sue Jameson is at Westminster. Morning to you, Sue. This sounds a rather unconventional advertising campaign, if you ask me.
Yeah, it sounds, doesn't it, like the makers of beautiful chocolates advertising by saying they'll make you fat, they'll make you spotty, have a rice cake instead, because they know that most people's view of Britain is the one we've seen in that lovely, Visit Britain campaign, where you've got all the lovely splendour of the countryside, the castles, the history, the culture, the slightly quirky friendliness. But this is a very politically sensitive time, of course, because if you do have an influx of immigration from the poorer European countries at a time of austerity when jobs are in poor supply, it's not great election tactics. So what they're going to try and do now is the sort of feeling you get on a really cold Monday morning when you wake up with a cold and you've been summoned to see your boss for a meeting without coffee. Not so much a Britannia that's cool but miserable and wet as well. But is it actually going to work?
Well, I'm from California and the weather hasn't deterred me, so I don't know if it'll deter anybody else who's determined really to get here.
I think it's probably a waste of money, and it might even encourage people to come to this country.
There's plenty enough immigrants as it is anyway in this country, so I think they should cut back now.
I wouldn't have thought it would put them off because it's wet and cold there as well, isn't it?
You have to work on the reason why people want to leave their country and come to the UK, as opposed to, making them feel that they shouldn't be coming.
Well, Britain is cold and wet, but I still think it's a warm and friendly place, and should try and welcome people if it can.
Well, we're joined now by the leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, and the Daily Mirror's Kevin Maguire. Morning to you. Relying on the weather, not the best way to control immigration, is it?
Astonishing, isn't it? I mean, they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money telling people in Sevilla and Bucharest that it's cold here. Do they realise that in the winter, in Bucharest, it gets down to -30? So I don't think this is actually going to put anybody off. But it shows how desperately worried the coalition are. The doors open on January the 1st next year. If we got the same percentage from those countries that we got from Poland, that would be something like 1/3 extra people that would come to Britain, not just to work, but to qualify for the whole social security system as well. So they're very, very scared, and they want to appear to do something. But the reality is, all the while we're part of the European Union, there is nothing we can do. The government is impotent.
But we won't get 1/3. The government won't publish its estimates, but we won't, because back then we were the only big economy that opened its doors. This time, Germany, France, Italy, Spain all have historic ties, more likely to get people from Bulgaria and Romania. Ireland's opened its doors earlier. The Irish ambassador says, I think there's 380 Bulgarians gone.
I'd be very careful about that.
I'd be very careful about 1/3
Well, I said if the same percentage comes, but the point is, Britain is seen as a soft touch. People know this is a very friendly, civilised country. If they come here, they'll be treated well. In other parts of Europe, it isn't quite like that.
But is that a bad thing? Because, a lot you mentioned about the Poles coming in. An awful lot of Poles came over, worked really, really hard, did poorly paid jobs, and actually now have stayed and been part of the community and enriched the community.
And you can understand why. The minimum wage here, what, £6.19? Yep. Over there in Romania, it's 79p.
Listen, if I was Romanian or Bulgarian, I'd be packing my bags now. 44% of Bulgarians are living below the poverty line. That means they can barely afford to feed their families. Organised crime is rife. The judicial system is collapsing. In Romania, there are 4 million Roma gypsies who were totally excluded from all normal life. They find it very hard to get work. I don't blame people, but there's a limit to our hospitality. It's a national health service. It's not there for everybody else. And why should somebody who comes in be able to claim job seekers allowance on day one? I don't think that's fair and right to British taxpayers.
You can claim it, but you won't get it. Because job seekers allowance is a contributory benefit. You've got to pay your national insurance.
The problem with that is that we're now covered by European rules, and if we don't treat people from other European countries the same as our own citizens, we will fall foul of the European court.
So what do we do? What do we do then? Clearly this advert
we could renegotiate our relationship, couldn't we, and then put it to a referendum. How about that?
We can waste hundreds of thousands, millions, saying, forget about the Olympics when we used to tell you Britain is great. We're now an industrial and economic and nuclear wasteland. We eat horse burgers burgers, our footballers kick ball boys. You can tell the world that, or you can just be reasonable and calm about it. It's not gonna happen in the same way, Nigel. You know it's not going to happen. You keep saying could, but you know it won't.
The point is we have no control over it, and a sensible, proper immigration policy would be where we issued work permits and we knew how many people were coming. With this, there is a massive risk, and I'd remind people we've already got 21% youth unemployment in Britain. We don't need an excess of unskilled labour, and we certainly, our local services, are creaking and straining already.
But you've got to remember, those who come, they do work. You know, if you can go shopping, if it wasn't for actual migrant labour coming in, you wouldn't get any meat because they've taken over the meat packing industry. Yes, they have. They do the dirty job.
You're not telling me that before 2004 that the cabbages were rotting in the fields and nothing was happening.
You wouldn't get people picking crops in the same way. That's why you have the casual scheme.
Are you happy for unskilled young British people to be forced out of work because big Lithuanian gangs now pick all the vegetables? Is that good for our country?
If you phrase it,
big employers.
If you phrase it like that, no. But I am happy people come and work. And people know. They see them on construction sites.
As long as people come over and they actually work and they don't come over to, as you said, to take advantage. Thank you both, because I know this is going to run and run, and we would appreciate your comments as well. Thank you both very much.
Get in touch, let us know what you think.